In the span of just 48 hours, Dana White dropped a bombshell that left the entire combat sports community speechless. A legendary fighter who disappeared for 7 years suddenly came back out of nowhere, and the most dangerous man in the welterweight division just quietly boarded a plane to a country that told the whole world everything they needed to know about his next opponent. This is one of those weeks in MMA where everything happens at once and you can barely keep up. So sit tight, because we are breaking all of it down right now. For months, the biggest rumor in all of combat sports has been the same question: what exactly is going to happen at the White House? And no, that is not a political statement. This is MMA. Dana White, the CEO of the UFC and one of Donald Trump's closest friends in sports, has been planning something that has never been done in the history of combat sports. A UFC fight card held on the South Lawn of the White House in Washington, D.C. on June 14, 2026. The event is set to celebrate two massive occasions at the same time. First, it marks the 250th anniversary of the United States of America. Second, it happens to fall on Donald Trump's 80th birthday. And if you know Dana White, you know he does not do things small. He has been teasing this event for months. Fans have been going crazy speculating who will fight. Names like Conor McGregor, John Jones, Alex Pereira, and Nate Diaz have all been thrown around. And Dana White, being Dana White, kept his mouth shut about the specifics until last Sunday night. After the Zuffa Boxing 3 post-fight press conference, White sat down with reporters and dropped the biggest update yet. He said, and this is a direct quote, "We got the White House card done last week." The room went absolutely silent for a moment. Done? The card is done? Reporters immediately started pressing him for names, for details, for anything. But then White quickly clarified his words. "I didn't say it was done, I said the card was built." Either way, the message was crystal clear. The fights are made. The matchmaking is complete. Everything is in place. They are just waiting to sit down with the president himself to finalize how it all looks on camera. White then revealed that he and UFC executive Craig Bersari are flying to Washington, D.C. this very week to sit down with President Trump in person. They have prepared 3 different production options for the event, and they plan to walk the president through everything, from the fight card to the stage design to the broadcast setup. "We'll see what he likes and what he doesn't like," White said with a grin. Now here is where it gets even more interesting. Respected Spanish MMA reporter Alvaro Colmenero, who has a strong track record of accuracy on UFC exclusives, reported that the main event of the White House card is already known. According to him, it will be Ilia Topuria defending his lightweight title against Justin Gaethje, a unification bout after Gaethje won the interim lightweight belt by defeating Paddy Pimblett in a 5-round war at UFC 324 in January. If that is true, the White House card already has one of the most electric main events of the year locked in. And whatever else Dana White has planned for the undercard, he promised this. This event is going to be so badass, so unique, so special, and so expensive. Coming from Dana White, that means a lot. The UFC has also confirmed that the White House event will have an attendance of roughly 3,000 to 4,000 people. There will be no public ticket sales, and somewhere between 6 and 7 fights are expected on the card. It is going to be exclusive, it is going to be historic, and the entire world is going to be watching. While Dana White was busy making history with presidents, something else was quietly happening that sent the entire welterweight division into a frenzy. To understand why this matters, you need to go back to November 2025. That was when Islam Makhachev, already one of the most dominant champions in UFC history after ruling the lightweight division for years, made one of the boldest moves in recent UFC history. He vacated his lightweight title, moved up to welterweight, and in his very first fight at 170 pounds, he dominated Jack Della Maddalena for 5 full rounds and walked out of UFC 322 as a 2-division champion. Just like that, the welterweight division had a new king, and his name was Islam Makhachev. The question immediately became, who is next? The obvious candidate at first was Shavkat Rakhmonov. He was undefeated, he had handed Ian Garry his first career loss at UFC 310, and he was widely considered the most dangerous welterweight on the planet, not named Makhachev. But then came the brutal news.
Rachmanov suffered a serious knee injury and needed surgery. He was out indefinitely. And just like that, the path to the welterweight title cracked wide open. That's where Ian Garry comes in. Garry is a 27-year-old Irishman who has been on an absolute mission since the day he walked into the UFC. He's currently ranked number 2 in the welterweight division. After losing to Rachmanov, he bounced back with 2 straight wins. First, a decision over Carlos Prates, and then a dominant unanimous decision over former UFC welterweight champion Belal Muhammad at UFC Qatar. After the Muhammad win, Garry walked to the microphone and called out Makhachev by name, loud and clear. The crowd went wild, and Garry's coach Diego Lima came right out and backed him up publicly, saying in a statement to MMA Fighting, "Without a doubt, the fight to make for the title is Ian Garry, for everything. For what he's shown, who he's faced them, I believe he has all the characteristics to face Islam Makhachev." Even former UFC middleweight champion Michael Bisping added fuel to the fire on his YouTube channel. Is Ian Garry versus Islam Makhachev the fight that is going to happen? Because it might just be. Ian Garry is the #1 ranked guy, and he's beaten some tremendous fighters, and his takedown defense against Muhammad was phenomenal. Now here is where it gets really interesting. Before his fight with Muhammad, a reporter asked Garry what he would do if he got booked against Makhachev, and Garry, cool as ever, made a very specific promise. He said, "I promise you I will come to Georgia, because Georgia has phenomenal wrestling, phenomenal judo, phenomenal sambo, and when you're trying to prepare for someone like Islam Makhachev, I'm gonna need that." Fast forward to February 16, 2026. Garry posted a photo from Tbilisi, the capital of Georgia, on his Instagram. He had kept his word. He was already there. He was already training. He was already preparing for Makhachev, and he hadn't even been officially booked yet. Georgia is not a random choice. It's one of the top wrestling nations in the world. The country has produced elite combat sports talent, including UFC lightweight champion Ilia Topuria. The wrestlers in Georgia train in the exact same style as Makhachev's Dagestani team. For Garry to be training there specifically says one thing and one thing only: the fight is happening.
Not everyone is thrilled about it, though. Makhachev's manager, Ali Abdelaziz, has been pretty vocal about his preference. He wants Kamaru Usman, the former pound-for-pound #1 welterweight in the world, to get the title shot instead. Abdelaziz argued that Usman is the tougher stylistic challenge for Makhachev and brings bigger name value. "Don't tell me Ian Garry," Abdelaziz told MMA Junkie. "He just lost to Shavkat. He was almost finished by Prates." But here is the thing. The UFC does not always listen to a fighter's management, and with Rachmanov out, Usman coming off limited recent activity, and Garry at #2 with back-to-back wins over top contenders, the math strongly favors the Irishman. The UFC has not officially announced anything yet, but Ian Garry training in Georgia tells you everything you need to know. This fight is coming. When it does happen, it sets up a storyline that the UFC could not have scripted better even if they tried. Makhachev is trained by and fights in the style of Khabib Nurmagomedov, the undefeated legend who retired as the greatest lightweight of all time. Ian Garry has openly modeled his career and fighting style after Conor McGregor, Khabib's most famous rival. The two have even trained together. Khabib versus McGregor is one of the most iconic rivalries in UFC history. Now a new generation of those same competing philosophies is about to collide in the welterweight division. That is not just a fight, that is a moment. And then, just when you thought the week could not get more eventful, something happened that nobody was ready for. A name that has not been mentioned in serious MMA competition circles since 2019 suddenly exploded back onto the internet. That name is Zabit Magomedsharipov. If you have followed MMA for any amount of time, you know exactly who Zabit is. If you are newer to the sport, here's everything you need to know. Zabit is a 35-year-old Dagestani featherweight who, between 2017 and 2019, was considered by many people to be one of the most exciting and talented fighters on the entire UFC roster. He stood 6'1" with a 73-inch reach, enormous for a 145-pound fighter. He combined elite striking, creative spinning kicks, smooth wrestling, and a sharp submission game into a style that was completely unique. Nobody fought like Zabit.
He went 6-0 in the UFC, defeating quality opponents like Calvin Kattar and Jeremy Stevens, and he looked like he was about to run the entire featherweight division. And then he just stopped. He cited health issues, he mentioned a growing disinterest in competing, he gave no clean, simple answer. In June 2022, he officially notified the UFC that he was retiring. He was 18-1 and had never lost inside the UFC. He was gone before the world ever got to see the best version of what he could become. For years, MMA fans have called Zabit the sport's biggest what if. The UFC even reportedly offered him an immediate title shot if he came back, and he turned it down. So when the ACBJJ, which stands for Absolute Championship of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, a Russian-based grappling promotion, posted on Monday, February 16, 2026, that they had officially signed Zabit Magomedsharipov to compete in a grappling match, the internet broke. The ACBJJ president, Zabit Makhachev, made the announcement with the kind of dramatic energy that makes you stop scrolling. He wrote, "Major decisions are made in silence. Negotiations are complete. Zabit Magomedsharipov joins ACBJJ. We are assembling the elite. Stay tuned." No date, no opponent, no location, just the confirmation that Zabit was back in competitive action after nearly 7 years away. And Zabit himself commented on the post in Russian, "Let's make some noise." Now here is where it gets spicy. ACBJJ is the exact same grappling promotion where Arman Tsarukyan, the #2 ranked UFC lightweight, has been very active recently. Tsarukyan competed there in December 2025 in a main event grappling match and has been using ACBJJ as a platform to stay sharp and competitive while waiting for his UFC title shot. Tsarukyan has been completely snubbed by the UFC for the interim lightweight title fight. Dana White himself confirmed in January 2026 that Tsarukyan's headbutt incident against Dan Hooker factored into the promotion's decision to pass him over. So Tsarukyan has been keeping himself busy the only way he can, by competing in grappling matches and wrestling tournaments against elite opponents. The moment Zabit's ACBJJ signing was announced, the calls immediately started for Zabit versus Arman Tsarukyan in a grappling match. Both are Dagestani region combat sports legends. Both are elite grapplers. Both currently have a home at ACBJJ. The fact that they are now signed to the same promotion, combined with the fact that Tsarukyan has been actively calling out new grappling opponents, makes this matchup almost impossible to ignore. The bigger question in everyone's mind, though, is what this means for Zabit's future in MMA. Is this a one-off grappling appearance just to scratch the competitive itch, or is it the first step in a full comeback to the UFC? The fact that he's competing again at all, after nearly 7 years of complete silence, suggests that something has shifted. His competitive fire has clearly not gone out. He commented, "Let's make some noise." That is not the language of a man just doing a casual grappling exhibition. That sounds like a man who wants to prove something. Whether a full MMA comeback follows remains to be seen, but the MMA world is paying very close attention. The sport's biggest ghost just walked out of the shadows, and nobody knows what happens next. If you enjoyed this breakdown and want the fastest, most detailed MMA updates without the fluff, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss when the next bombshell drops.